Welcome to this webinar, Rich Media Messaging in 2021, Sector Outlook and Key Opportunities. My name is Scarlett Woodford, a research analyst at Juniper Research, author of research reports on mobile messaging and artificial intelligence. We believe that rich media messaging encompasses two main messaging protocols: OTT messaging applications such as Facebook Messenger, WeChat and WhatsApp, as well as RCS. The use of P2P RCS remains minimal, whereas P2P traffic makes up almost 99% of all OTT messaging application traffic. Due to the relative stability of the P2P messaging market, this presentation will focus primarily on A2P rich media messaging. I shall begin this webinar by providing an overview of rich media messaging, focusing on high-level market trends. The role of RCS within retail will then be explored, before moving on to a discussion of rich media messaging within the ticketing sector. I will then explore the state of rich media business messaging with regards to technology-specific traffic, before exploring the future of both RCS and OTT business messaging. We cannot discuss rich media messaging without briefly mentioning SMS. SMS has undoubtedly proven resilient during the pandemic, with the messaging format's universal nature lending itself to new and extended use cases, such as within healthcare and banking. During the COVID-19 pandemic, SMS has played an important part in telehealth services. Telehealth has allowed doctors to interact with patients and triage those with coronavirus symptoms, whilst minimising face-to-face contact, therefore reducing the risk of transmission. SMS has been used to transmit messages from healthcare providers relating to the pandemic, ensuring the spread of accurate information. We estimate that SMS will comprise 98% of all mobile business messaging traffic in 2020, as investment into alternative protocols has slowed due to COVID-19 and anticipated further economic downturn. Despite this, digital transformation is inevitable across all industries, with A2P rich media messaging volumes forecast to increase from 19 billion in 2019 to 92 billion in 2021. China will maintain its position as the largest market for rich media messaging, representing 43% of A2P rich media messaging traffic by 2021. China will account for 40 billion A2P rich media messages next year, rising from 11.8 billion in 2019, boosted by the country's widespread use of WeChat. The current pandemic has highlighted the benefits of mobile messaging, enabling corporations to easily maintain communication with their customers. Initially, brands are likely to rely on SMS due to its comparatively low cost and high open rates, especially in regions where smartphone penetration is comparatively low. If enterprises can get end users to successfully interact with them using SMS messages, users are much more likely to be receptive to brands reaching out to them over rich media. Despite the impact of COVID-19, traffic volumes will continue to increase across all sectors, with the most significant growth seen in the retail and content payments sectors, with growth rates of 67% and 73% respectively. The number of rich media messages sent for content payment purposes will increase from 1.3 billion in 2019 to 6.8 billion in 2021, accelerated by COVID-19 related lockdown restrictions. Similarly, retail will experience an increase in the number of rich media messages sent. We forecast that the total number of A2P retail-specific rich media messages will increase from 3.3 billion in 2019 to 15.2 billion in 2021. Rich media messaging, especially RCS, will be key to retailers adopting an omnichannel approach to customer interactions. Retailers are increasingly adopting this omnichannel approach, realizing the benefits of interaction with customers on their preferred communication channels. Combined with targeted adverts, an omnichannel approach can drive website visits and increase sales conversions, ultimately resulting in higher revenues. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, many physical store locations were forced to close amidst country-level lockdowns. Retailers were subsequently forced to accelerate digital adoption, demonstrating increased reliance on rich media messaging as a channel of communication with customers. Due to health concerns amidst the pandemic, consumer footfall in physical stores is likely to remain low until consumer perceptions of safety increase. As a result, the number of e-commerce orders will remain high, as online retail is perceived as a safer way of shopping in terms of the risk of spreading or contracting the virus. As a result, the number of A2P retail messages will increase, with messages being used to send order confirmations, dispatch notifications, tracking information, and delivery updates. Whilst these messages are traditionally sent via SMS, there is scope for brands to send these via OTT messaging applications and RCS. For this reason, we believe that retail adoption of rich media messaging will extend past the end of the pandemic, with the total number of A2P rich media retail messages increasing from 8 billion in 2020 to 15.2 billion in 2021. The large volume of A2P rich retail messages originating from China can be explained by the strength of the country's OTT messaging application ecosystem, including the popularity of WeChat. WeChat's focus on providing value-added services has driven the growth of A2P messaging in China, with China accounting for 9.4 billion retail-specific A2P rich messages in 2021. This is an increase from 2.5 billion in 2019, representing 61% of the anticipated global total for next year. Omnichannel retail, by its very definition, will involve a large number of communication channels, and of course, rich media messaging will be one of these. However, as we've seen, there are regional differences in how each messaging market has developed in terms of rich media services. In Europe, for example, we have seen a large uptake of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, whilst in the US there is Facebook Messenger and RCS supported by Google and the CCMI. Latin America also has a high adoption rate of OTT channels, with WhatsApp being overwhelmingly popular. Obviously, artificial intelligence and chatbots within mobile messaging has not lived up to expectations of some, but other commerce channels are still growing. Over the next few years, we will see omnichannel strategies increasingly involve mobile messaging, owing to the high open rates and ubiquity of SMS. Rich media will play a role going forward, as there is a lot of interest from potential users, which can be attributable to the retail sector. As international travel restrictions are lifted and events are rescheduled, the volume of rich media messages used for ticketing purposes will increase. We forecast that the total number of rich media messages sent for ticketing purposes will increase from 174 million in 2020 to 474 million in 2021, as consumer confidence in attending events and embarking on non-essential travel increases. Venues and airlines are likely to introduce competitive offers in order to attract customers, which will subsequently increase the number of bookings made. Service providers can then use rich media messaging to send booking confirmations, notifications, and event or flight reminders to customers. North America will experience the most significant growth by 2021, driven by the region's early adoption of RCS solutions. We foresee that the number of A2P rich media ticketing messages sent in North America will increase from 500,000 in 2019 to 88 million in 2021. The region's adoption of RCS messaging has been driven by Google's rollout of RCS services within the US, as well as the establishment of the CCMI. Whilst the CCMI will initially focus on the US market, the resulting application will eventually become available worldwide. Having won the contract to provide the platform for the new joint venture, Synchronos Technologies is working with the CCMI towards launching an RCS-based messaging service by the end of 2020. It is yet to be seen whether this will be delivered in the promised timescale, as Synchronos Technologies announced a 10% reduction in its workforce during May 2020. This could potentially delay the rollout of the CCMI solution, delaying overall RCS deployment. The prevalence of WeChat is absolutely key in China, and the same can be said for Line in Japan and KakaoTalk in South Korea. These applications have been leaders in introducing value-added services and exploiting their reach amongst their respective demographics. Ticketing is a great example of the potential for doing this outside the Far East. For example, WeChat has offered APIs to integrate ticketing services for some time, and there are numerous examples of services launched in China. The COVID-19 pandemic has delayed investment into innovative technologies as corporations reevaluate current expenditure amidst economic uncertainty. Despite this, RCS technologies continue to gain traction, albeit at a slower rate than previously expected. We forecast RCS business messaging traffic will increase from 160 million in 2020 to 4.7 billion in 2021, with most traffic being used for operator engagement purposes. Operators will increasingly use RCS to promote offers and services to end users, as well as providing billing notifications or alerting users to the possibility of an upgrade. Due to the ownership of the network, operators can implement rich media messaging without the associated premium price tag. The comparatively high price of sending messages over RCS compared to SMS is something that enterprises will have to take into account when considering the implementation of RCS. It is still unclear, however, as to which RCS monetization model will be adopted. In order to ease the transition from SMS to RCS, network operators must ensure that their chosen monetization model is relatively simple in order to encourage brands and enterprises to send out messages using RCS. An event-based model for RCS would replicate the existing SMS model, with network operators charging businesses per message sent. When considering the most suitable model for RCS, it is important to consider the intention and size of the message. If an event-based strategy is deployed, initial file sizes will become important in determining the profitability of RCS services. We suggest that operators should adopt an event-based model during the early stages of RCS, as market stakeholders will be familiar with this model. This will enable operators and platform providers to hit the ground running, as it were, with RCS deployment. The conversation-based model would charge users based on engagement, measured in terms of time or the total number of messages sent in a conversation. However, it's important to note that definitions of a conversation may vary from operator to operator, and conversation-based models are therefore more difficult to define and implement. For conversation-based models, it is important that fair usage policies are introduced in order to stop brands abusing operator networks. If RCS conversations are particularly lengthy, it may become unprofitable for operators to continue using this model. Operators must include two key points in fair usage policies in order to ensure that conversation-based models are profitable. Firstly, they must include a clear definition of what constitutes an RCS conversation. This must include a limit on the number of messages that can be included in a conversation. Also, they must provide an outline of limits on the data included per message or per conversation. It is important for a fair usage policy between the operator and business user to be established early. This policy should outline anticipated traffic and data usage alongside reported usage. This should include average data packet size and time of usage in order to enable operators to accurately measure the impact of RCS messaging on their network. Conversation-based models will become increasingly popular with operators once RCS technology has become more established and confidence in the service has increased. Currently, operators should focus on event-based models, as RCS technologies are still in their infancy. Once RCS becomes more widespread and the technology begins to evolve, operators can explore the possibility of conversation-based models. We suggest that until artificial intelligence evolves and chatbots become more functional, conversational use of RCS will continue to be limited. North America's dominance of the rich media business messaging markets can be explained by the US and Canada's early adoption of RCS technology, with the US awarded gold status for RCS readiness by the GSMA. We forecast that revenues from A2P RCS traffic for US-based operators will reach $25 million in 2021, increasing from $1 million in 2020, clearly demonstrating that RCS is a lucrative opportunity for US network operators. OTT business messaging traffic volumes will continue to increase, with the volumes of A2P messaging increasing from 43 billion in 2020 to 87.3 billion in 2021. Global use will remain high due to user familiarity for messaging apps, as well as brands and retailers increasingly adopting rich media messaging as part of their approach to customer service. Overall, China will remain the largest market for OTT business messaging, accounting for 46% of all OTT business messaging traffic by 2021. With regards to sector-specific traffic within China, the majority of OTT business messages will come from the retail sector and advertising, accounting for 23% and 24% of traffic respectively. This is unsurprising considering the popularity of WeChat amongst Chinese users. Businesses are able to create an official account on WeChat using the app to interact with customers either via a customer service representative or a chatbot. This is a crucial step for enterprises wishing to engage with Chinese consumers, as WeChat is an integral cornerstone of Chinese consumer phone use. The future success of RCS is very much dependent upon the commitment of all stakeholders within the mobile messaging ecosystem. We identify 3 categories of key players that are crucial to making RCS a success: mobile network operators, handset manufacturers, and CPaaS vendors. Currently, not all mobile network operators are RCS enabled. According to the GSMA, there are currently 90 operators worldwide that support RCS. Until a wider range of network operators support RCS, enterprises will be hesitant to transfer the majority of their traffic away from SMS. The deployment of an RCS campaign without the guarantee of the message being delivered in the intended format to all recipients would mean that investment in such a marketing campaign would risk resulting in a financial loss. Initially, brands may send SMS messages containing a rich content link, which ensures that the message is received by all intended users. Despite the impact of COVID-19, we suggest that other network operators should prioritise investment in the network upgrades necessary to support RCS messaging. RCS marks a lucrative opportunity for network operators worldwide, with total global operator revenue from RCS business messaging expected to reach $45 million in 2021. With regards to handset manufacturers, there is a marked discrepancy between Android and iOS operating systems. Following Apple's release of new iMessage functionalities through iOS 14, it is unlikely that Apple will announce support for RCS in the foreseeable future. The lack of RCS-based services from Apple will be most significant in countries where iOS devices hold a considerable market share, such as the US and the UK. Apple are likely to have plans to support RCS in the long term, potentially via iMessage, in order to ensure that iOS users benefit from RCS services. Failure to do so could cause end users to migrate from iOS to Android devices in order to access the full suite of features that RCS can offer. For RCS to continue gaining popularity, CPaaS and MAP vendors must offer RCS solutions. Enterprises will increasingly rely on vendors who can help realize RCS marketing campaigns as the market trend of conversational commerce continues to grow. Using RCS solutions offered by CPaaS or MAP providers enables enterprises to interact with their customers in a richer way, whilst minimizing initial investment. When deploying a marketing campaign, the main concern of enterprises is whether the end user receives the message, not in which format the message is delivered. For this reason, the most successful vendors will offer the ability to deliver RCS content in SMS format if a recipient's device is not RCS enabled. OTT channels, especially WhatsApp, are heavily regulated. This means that there are limited prospects for advertisers on these channels. Brands will continue to target the communication channels that consumers use the most, but will take care to restrict advertising content to other messaging protocols. It is more likely that enterprises will use OTT messaging applications to send retail-related content, such as order confirmations, dispatch notifications, tracking information, and delivery alerts. In fact, we forecast that total OTT retail-specific business messaging traffic will increase from 10.1 billion in 2019 to 27.6 billion in 2021, bolstered by the continued popularity of e-commerce during the current pandemic. Rather than accessing OTT apps through mobile messaging platform providers, enterprises are likely to offer access through APIs supplied directly by developers. Enterprises may have difficulty in gaining access to WhatsApp's API due to stringent regulations about what it can be used for and a thorough application process. Therefore, MAP and CPaaS vendors should aim to offer messaging services over WhatsApp in order to appeal to enterprise customers who wish to implement this platform as part of their offering. This will give select MAP and CPaaS vendors a competitive edge, appealing to enterprise customers targeting end users in countries or even regions where WhatsApp is the most popular social messaging app, such as Canada, Mexico, Latin America, and certain African countries. Firstly, it must be noted that WhatsApp has stringent regulations on using their app in a business messaging capacity. Developers want to retain the primary value of the app, which is simplicity and the ability to mitigate spam messages or unwanted content. This means for WhatsApp, we anticipate that only the largest service users in their respective industries will adopt the service in the near future. For example, in ticketing, we can expect large transport service providers and large event organisers to capitalise on WhatsApp. Obviously, for ABC, there is a large restriction in that it only impacts iOS devices. This is fine for countries such as the US and the UK, where iOS penetration is high, but for countries in the Far East, for example, the value proposition of the service is very low. For RCS, a key benefit is the universal profile, which can apply to a number of phones. This standardisation and the lack of fragmentation makes RCS the most promising technology for a multitude of industries over the next 5 years. In conclusion, whilst the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed investment into alternative protocols, digital transformation is inevitable across all industries. Total rich media A2P traffic will continue to increase in the short term, reaching 92 billion messages by 2021. China will remain the largest market for business messaging traffic, with the country accounting for 43% of all A2P rich media traffic next year. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions on this webinar or Juniper Research's latest report on A2P messaging, please come and visit us in our virtual booth. We are offering a 10% discount on our latest A2P messaging research, which can be redeemed directly from Juniper Research's website. Please enter code MEF2020 at checkout.